Okay, remember I used a 1/8 pipe, 6 inches long. I drilled in through the cylinder head. What you have to watch out for is that you don't get interfere with the push rod. Alright, also when you take it apart, you're going to find one push rod is different than the other. You can of the material composition, so you want to separate it. And as well, on the end of the valve stem there's caps. But right here is where the bolt is for the cylinder head. So you can see, about where I drilled. And that's probably how far I drilled. Okay, and then on the side of the cylinder head where this pipe is, there's kind of a boss up here. And what I did, I took a carbide burr and I flattened it out what I could, and then I center punched it. You got to eyeball it. And then I went ahead and I drilled a 1/8 hole to get started. Your 1/8 drill normally isn't going to be long enough to go in, but you can step it up. You can step it up, and then get you a pilot hole in there, and go ahead and drill it your drill tap size for your 1/8 pipe. The other thing is you can see how long that is. Well, the first time I did it, the 1/8 tap I had barely got in there. It stuck about, it was down in this hole. And so what I did, I ended up purchasing, I found a couple on eBay for like $11 that were, I think, 4 to 6 inches long, and that really worked very well. The other thing is, this here pipe is going to be bigger than your tap drill size. So once you get your hole tapped out, measure this, go ahead and put your hole in there to where you can get this pipe with clearance in there. And there was 2 different sealants that I used. The first one I did, I used a seal-all. It's in a yellow tube. I think Advanced Auto Part has it. Now I've used it several times and it works very well. I let it sit 24 hours before I did anything with it. And then the other thing, JB Weld had a muffler sealing compound, and that's what I used on this one here. So you can take your time and do it and see what happens. The other thing I want to add in this video is this valve here off the carburetor. What happens is sometimes people end up getting gas in their oil, and what happens, this valve is leaking by. And what happens when you turn your key off, the valve has an interlock and it goes up and it shuts off the gas. When you turn it on, the valve goes down and lets the gas flow freely. And sometimes you can take this valve out and work it up and down. It may work, but sometimes it just electrically burns out. And so what I'm going to do is take one of these valves and show you in this video here. Okay, there's a couple things I forgot to mention here that may help out. As you can see, under the intake manifold I have a little clearance. Alright, there is a picture in there. It's really hard to see, one of the pictures in the previous video where I did take a picture of this. So you're going to have to notch out your intake manifold. Now this is an older one. Right? This is, I think, off of a 13 horse, real old. But as you can see, it doesn't have this mount. But if I had to use this one, I could cut this off. But what you're going to have to do is V this out. All right, my suggestion is to bolt this up, V it out, so you know you got clearance between the discharge pipe and the intake manifold. See, I got clearance. And just be real careful that when you cut it out, you don't cut into the intake manifold. But you could RTV it if you had to. And then the other thing is, once you use your seal-all or your sealant and you go to put it in, hold this tight so it don't spin and break your sealant. Go ahead and screw it on and try not to let this pipe turn. Hopefully this may help. But like I said, go ahead and bolt this up before you drill it. Make your notch out and just make sure you got enough clearance. It'll work out pretty good. That might even give you an idea of where to drill. Well, this is my test stand that I use for when I do some work, whatever, and I put them on here and do some testing on there. But what I wanted to show you here is I got a petcock valve. It's a ball valve, and it works fine. Okay, so I suggest if you don't want to use electric solenoid valve, maybe locate you a ball valve, and I got a bell reducer here from 1/4 to 1/8 pipe. And so, but it works fine. You know, you can, as you're trying to start it, you can turn it and then shut it manually, and it works fine. This is actually the first one I did, okay, or the first way I set it up. The other thing is, the head gasket came off, was no damage to it, so I put a little sealant on there and I put it back together. Not always your head gasket is going to damage, but it doesn't hurt to replace them, and that's optional. The other thing I wanted to mention was the gasket set. So you can pick up this gasket set for, I don't know, $12, but look, you get 2 head gaskets with it, and intake, exhaust, valve seal. But I estimated the total to do this was right around $30 for the material, not counting any labor. Good morning, Steve Harmon here at Oakland Cemetery. Today is March the 2nd, 2024, and I'm trying to do a follow-up here on some of the items or information that I think I missed in the last video. What I want to show you is the sealant that I use, the 2 different sealants, carburetor, and the solenoid valve. Well, you can see the JB weld, that's a muffler sealer, and then the seal all. Seal all is like a RTV, but also it tells you on there that you can wait 15 minutes and put another layer on. Now I've used it on several oil systems and my gas. I got a 48 Plymouth business coupe and had a hole in the gas tank, and I used that to seal it, and it worked very well on gas. So what I'm going to try to do here is show a few items here, or a few issues that I had. Now the solenoid valve, which is right here, the first one I purchased, I didn't say, had a screw in it. All right, and the screw kept backing out. As I was using it, I was watching it, and I kept tightening it up, and then it came out, and I replaced it with another one. It still wouldn't stay tight. And so as you can see on the first video, this valve wasn't on there. It was pieces of the old one. So I suggest if you do seem to want to purchase one of these, look for the one that's sealed. It's all the way sealed. And then there's the JB Weld muffler sealer. Okay, seems to work pretty well. And there's the seal off. Like I say, I'm pretty happy with that. Now, like I said, I think you can purchase it at Advanced Auto Parts. And then the only thing, doesn't really have a manufacturer's name on here, but it's an air horn switch. And so what I'm going to try to do here, I'm going to show you this carburetor, something that I missed that may be helpful to you. Okay, in one of my videos I showed replacing this valve, and this is what happened, okay, and I believe it was human error. So the valve kind of came apart on me, and due to heat. I was testing it out and I didn't have this fan shroud on, and I think the temperature exceeded what the valve could take, and it blew apart. And that's possible with the first valve that had the screw in the center. But the one with the screw in the center, I couldn't keep it tight. But now the other lawnmower that I do have, all this is put together the same way, and it hasn't failed on me. But I did do a temperature check. Yesterday I cut with it for like 5 hours, and I got about 218 degrees at the valve cover. So I kind of figured that would be a stable temperature for the engine, and it may exceed what this is allowed. I'm not sure. There wasn't no information on it, but it did say an air horn. Now what I did do was replace it with this manual compression relief. I think Husqvarna chainsaws. It's like under $10. And so I used a 1/8 pipe nipple and screwed it in. So what you do is you push it in, and it allows the compression to relieve, and as the pressure goes, it'll shut it. So I'm going to show you how this works, and we'll see what happens here. Right now I have the valve out, so hopefully the engine won't turn, but we'll see. Alright, there. Now it needs a compression relief. I'll watch. Okay, now I'm going to push it in. You can do it, might have to do it a couple times. I might need to choke it too. Ain't that something? I've been playing around with it this morning, so you can see it does work. My suggestion is, if you do this, get you a manual compression relief. Okay, this is the third mower, and I'm going to crank it up, shut it down a couple times. But if you also listen when I start, you can hear the compression being relieved. And then sometimes when you cut it off, you might hear a little backfire. But this one's doing really good. This one here was, I got this mower basically out of almost a swamp. Shutting off the gas. The other thing is, I got some lawnmowers where that safety valve works good, but what I do when I leave it unplugged, I know that the valve's bad, and I know I need to shut the valve off. The other issue I have, this one runs good, but it seems like I got to give it a shot of ether to start it for the first time. Then after that, it runs fine. So what I'm going to try to do is, on that test stand, I'm going to try to take a compression relief off of one of the chainsaws and put on the discharge side and maybe reduce that 50%, because it could have low compression. I haven't verified what the compression is or anything, but that's just a hunch, and so I'll see. It might help it have a little bit more compression when it starts, but it runs good. I've cut with the cemetery several times with it, and Mr. Financer gave it to us. I had to replace the motor, the deck. I had to do some work to it, but so far it's been working out pretty good for me. So hopefully that ends the video for the compression relief.